Hey class, we're going to pick up with Pax, and this week we're going to be reading chapters 11 and chapters 12. So last week we left Pax. He had just been having a conversation with Bristle, and one of your questions from last week was, what do you think the story is, pardon me, that Bristle is about to tell? So they had just stated that humans are dangerous, and Bristle was about to start this story. Now, today's questions for chapter 11, one has to do with what kind of a reader you would recommend this book to. So I just want you to think about what is being read about, the style, the genre, the theme, and all that. And think about who would want to read it, whether that be interests, age groups, etc. So this question is kind of more of a your opinion base, but I want you to back up your opinion using examples from the book of why you feel it would relate to that reader. Your other question has to do with italics. So I'm going to actually show you as I'm reading some of the italics used in this chapter. And it's something that you might have missed while I was reading before. They've been using italics for a very specific reason with the wolves or with the foxes in particular. So I'm going to start reading and I will show you some of this italics as well. So chapter 11, and you can see starting off, there's quite a bit of italics, and you can just pause it here if that helps give you a sense, but a lot of italics on this page. So starting in italics. My brother was born in my mother's second litter. They came early in the season. Last year, spring came late. Snow fell and it did not melt. The earth stayed frozen beneath it. I lived nearby. I helped hunt. All day long, our parents and I searched for food because the kits were always hungry, but there was never enough. Two of his littermates died on the same day. The farm, our mother urged. At the human's farm, there were always fat mice in the warm barn. At the human's farm, there were eggs in the chicken coop. Our father would not risk it. When our third kit grew too weak to stand, our mother defied him. And that's the end of it, the italics. The next bit isn't in italics. Runt raised his head and gave Bristle a pleading look. Bristle ignored it. Back to italics. She led the strongest of our new kit, my sister and me, to the human's farm. End italics for a second. Runt edged closer and pressed his nose into Pax's shoulder. Instantly, the vixen lashed at his cheek. Though Pax noted she did not use her claws, Runt dropped to the ground. Back to italics. The ground around the barn was cleared of snow by many footprints, animals as well as human. The air was rich with the smell of rodents. Our mother headed for a gap in the wooden boards near the base, with a few tail lengths behind. Just before she reached it, steel jaws sprang out of the earth with such speed that the air snapped. So you remember last week that was part of kind of the hint of what the story was about. So the steel jaws snapping. Our mother screamed. The clamp held her front leg. So what do we think this steel jaw is? The more she thrashed, the deeper the metal cut. She began biting at her leg to free it. Every time we tried to come near, she ordered us away. Our father appeared. He had followed our tracks. He chased my sister and me back into the brush and ordered us to stay there. Then he set to helping our mother. And again, we're away from italics here. The scene she conveyed was of two foxes, bonded by both an old love and a new fear. The fear so terrible that their eyes rolled back in their sockets, so vivid that Pax smelled its sharp scent. Runt began to whimper, a piteous sound that made Pax want to comfort him, but Bristle warned him to keep away. A human came then with a stick. Back to italics. Both our parents screamed at us to run home. We stayed. We saw. The human raised the stick, and in front of our eyes, our mother and our father burst into blood and fur, and shattered bones spattered over the snow. Runt whined and backed away toward the den again, and again Bristle stopped him. So that wasn't italicized. Back to italics. My sister and I could not leave our parents' bodies. Darkness fell, and the next day came, and still we hid in a pile of wood beside the barn. Finally we set out, but that night it began to snow. The snow blotted out all the sound and scent. Lost, we crawled under a sweep of pine boughs, and I curled myself around my sister, who was so much smaller. In the morning, she died. When the snow stopped, I saw that we had sheltered beneath the great pine at the top of our ridge. We had been within sight of home. Away from italics. The image she shared then, her sister's frozen corpse at the base of the mighty pine, seemed to exhaust her. Back to italics. Why do we have no family, brother? Brent turned to Pax. Because of the humans, we have no family. Bristle turned her golden eyes on Pax, inviting a challenge. If he could have, he would have made her know every kindness of every day with his boy. But he hated she had but the hatred she had for humans was deep and fair. Instead, he offered his cheek in sympathy. Bristle turned away and ordered her brother into the den. So I want you to think, what was the italics used for in this chapter? But also, based on the themes, the topic, and all of that going on within this chapter, who would you recommend this book to? Is this something that's suited for younger audiences, or is it something that you think is a little bit more mature in content than for younger audiences? So I'll let you guys think about that one, and we will read chapter 12 next. So I'll see you guys then.